One of the brilliant things about the Camera Raw editor is that it can make selective tonal and color adjustments. Take this start image for example. There's a variety of different exposures and light settings here. It's much darker here, much lighter here, and we're losing detail in these areas down here as well. So what we can do is make selective tonal adjustments just to create a more evenly exposed image. Now we can start off making selective tonal adjustments using the sliders in the basic tab. They're designed to target specific tonal regions, as you can see here, and as you can also see as we move over the histogram, we've got different areas there such as highlights and shadows, for example. Now these sliders are all very well up to a point, but sometimes you need help from more selective adjustment tools such as the graduated filter, which will put through its paces in just a tick. I'm going to start off by boosting the exposure overall just to try and brighten things up. You can see the histogram is sliding more towards the right there now as its darker tones are becoming lighter. So now we're making a global adjustment. About 0.90 is a good starting point, and that creates a healthier spread of tones. We've got more highlights there now. I'm also going to lighten up some of the darker shadows by using the shadow slider. If I click and drag that to the right, so around about 40, you can see it's lightening up the shadows in the image, and the histogram shadows are also sliding more towards the mid-tone section up here. And by boosting vibrance up to 20, we can get some more vibrant looking colours, especially in the blues of the sky. But that also looks much darker there now. We've got a bit of a vignetted corner there. So what I'm going to do is grab this tool here, the graduated filter, and you can see the panel here is changing now. I'm just going to set these to 0 to start with. And what we're going to do here is lighten up the exposure by dragging this slider to 1.05. Here we go. And then if we click and drag from the corner here, we can create a graduated adjustment just to lighten up this section here and blend it with the correctly exposed areas in this part of the image. And you can have as many graduated adjustments as you like. Now the other thing we need to do is just improve the contrast of these areas here without messing around with the correctly exposed sky. And to do that, I'm going to use the adjustment brush, which is this one here. Let's just zero all the settings for the moment. Let's set the exposure to 0.50. And let's increase the contrast to 50, and indeed the mid-tone contrast as well with clarity is set to 50, and that gives you much more delicate detail when you start to spray over these areas here. So click to place a control pin and then just click and spray, and you'll see it's lightening up these areas using the exposure setting, and it's also increasing the contrast and the clarity to give these areas a little bit more punch and impact without messing around with the correctly exposed sky. And here's a tool to help you. Let's just scroll down and you can see we've got the option to show mask, and that shows you which areas are being adjusted by this particular pin. So if you've missed any areas, you can click down and spray over them like so. And if you've gone over the sky a little bit and you don't actually want to adjust that, what you can do is click Erase and click and spray to remove any of the unwanted areas from being adjusted by the adjustment brush. So click and spray there. When you've finished fine-tuning the areas that are being adjusted, just tick here to untick Show Mask and see the colours and tones. It's looking a little bit cold there in the background, so what I'm going to do is click New. It's going to keep the same adjustment settings, but what I want to do is just warm up the colour temperature of that rather cold looking background. So let's take that to around about 21 or so, and then just click and spray just to lighten it, but also to warm it up, make it look a little bit friendlier and more summery. And as you can see there, we've clicked to place a new point, so we can now control that point from here. And if we go to this one here, we can then make adjustments by tweaking the sliders accordingly. So you can fine tune the adjustments after you've made them at any time just by clicking on the appropriate pin. Now let's give these trees a more dramatic silhouette effect by using another adjustment brush setting. Let's click New. Let's just zero these ones here to start with. And then what we're going to do is darken the exposure by dragging this to about 0.60 or so. Let's press Ctrl plus to zoom in a couple of times to get a closer look at those trees. Hold down the spacebar and drag so we can see them thanks to the hand tool. And now I'm going to scroll down here with the adjustment brush and make sure that Auto Mask is ticked. Let's take the size down as well. And then what we can do is click to sample some of the black branches here. As you click and spray, you'll notice it's using a tolerance setting, so it's trying to adjust the trees without adjusting the lighter blue background. So that Auto Mask option enables you to make a more selective and targeted adjustments. Let me turn the mask off so you can see the darker trees there. If I click and drag over to here, we should be able to do the same with these ones here, and that just gives them a sort of darker silhouette effect against the lighter sky, but we're not darkening the sky thanks to Auto Mask. Turn that on again, and you can see the way it's selecting the trees but not the background. And finally, the sky's a little bit too bright here, so another way of adjusting that selectively is to use the radial filter, and that gets its own panel here. So what we can do is set exposure to -0.60, take down the highlights as well to about -15. Let's increase midtone contrast to bring out delicate details if we take that up to about 38 or so. And we'll boost the colour in this area as well by increasing the saturation to 10. And then we can click and draw an ellipse to selectively darken these bits of the sky, and we can click and drag as well to place that more into position. So it's making a nice graduated adjustment in a circular shape. You could also make that more oval if you like, and you can also click outside and rotate it to suit the area of the image that you want to edit. So I'm just going to bring it down a little bit like so, to then darken this bit of sky in a very gentle way that mixes with the correctly exposed sky around it. And finally we can click here to see a before and after version of our edited image, courtesy of the Selective adjustment tools.